Orange wine. Well, orange wine for me is a little bit like tasting history. Yeah, it's trendy now, but the technique used to produce this style of wine is about 5,000 years old. And so, regardless of whether you've got a fancy, nice, modern label, this style of wine originated in Georgia and is one of the oldest styles of wine that exists. It is not made from oranges, but how on earth is it made then? Well, let's check it out. Yeah, there's no oranges in my wine. It's actually Chardonnay and Sauvignon, so two grape varieties in here that you would be really familiar with. The reason it's orange are the colours come from the skin and the seeds. And this term orange wine was actually coined by an importer from the UK, but there are other names that are maybe a little more accurate, like amber wine, skin contact wine. So you take your white grapes, and historically what you would have done in Georgia is you'd have put them in a kevri, so a big clay pot buried under the ground, and you would have thrown your grapes in, so your white grapes in this case for orange wine, but they could have made wine with red grapes too. But you've thrown your white grapes in and you haven't taken the skins off, you haven't crushed them or pressed them. This is very historical, you don't have these machines or techniques. You throw the grapes in, you seal the pot with beeswax, and you hope for the best. And what is actually happening in that pot, and what we emulate now in orange wine, is that we are macerating. So we're basically making a tea, or that's probably the easiest way to think about it actually, macerating your grapes, but you're not just taking the fleshy bit. So Chardonnay and Sauvignon in here, normally we would just take the fleshy bit of our Chardonnay and Sauvignon, press that inside fleshy bit, and we would use the juice, the clear run juice. But here we're using the whole grape. We're taking the skins, we're taking the pips, and from there we're also going to impart flavour as well as colour. So what do they taste like? Well, they're going to be more tannic, they're going to be more bitter. All of those components are found in the skin and the seeds, so they're going to feel dry around our mouth. They're going to be a bit sort of tingly perhaps. And you also might find flavours imparted like orange rind, Brazil nuts, that drying sensation of a Brazil nut. So those are going to be the key differences that make orange wine compared to white wine. But you're also going to find some things from the grape variety. So are they floral? Is it a Gewürztraminer orange wine? That will taste incredibly different to a Chardonnay and Sauvignon. And so follow the grape variety, but know that there are also some commonalities with orange wine, particularly around that drying sensation of the mouth found in tannins, a slight bitterness as well. And where am I finding these wines? Well, you can make orange wine any the heck where you want. So whether that's, here we've got a vin de France, it means a wine of France. Mostly you're going to have to declassify your wine if you're making it in a region that has rules and regulations. So you can't make a Bordeaux white that looks like this. It won't meet the regulations. But you can make a vin de France wherever you are. But there are also some countries that particularly specialize in this style, and there are grape varieties that they use. So in Georgia, for example, there's a grape called Cazzetelli, and that's absolutely delicious. In Friuli-Ghiaia, northern Italy, they grow Ribolla Ghiaia, which is a lovely kind of honeyed, fruity grape, and also make wine like this from Pinot Grigio. Friulano make Sauvignon Vert versions of this as well. In Slovenia, oh my goodness, there's so much orange wine in Slovenia, it's amazing. They also grow Ribolla Ghiaia. They've got loads of great orange stuff. It's a great country if you're just getting into this. In fact, they drink it like beer in the streets rather than just having beers. Austria, It's hugging northern Italy, so really, really great, makes it just like its neighbours. Greece, something interesting from the Dabina grape you might look for as well. I've mentioned France. It is all over France. There's sometimes a bit of confusion in the Jura region, which makes yellow wine, vin jaune, which is different. That's to do with the flora of yeast. Although you can get orange wine in the Jura too. But I would say of any area, the Languedoc-Roussillon are the pioneers of the orange movement within France. Then outside Europe and Georgia, you can certainly find orange wine anywhere, like the USA, South Africa, Chile, Australia. The world is literally your oyster with orange wine because it is a kind of style of wine. It's not a legal requirement of a certain area. It's just like saying, where can I get sparkling wine from? Wherever, whoever wants to make it. So where can I get orange wine from? Anywhere, but there are some places that do it better than others. When should I be drinking orange wine? And this is a really interesting question because a lot of people are put off because they don't know the occasion. But if you think about it, it's taking structure from the skins, and that's how red wine gets its structure, but it's got the fruit components and the flavours, mainly of the white grapes that it comes from. So it can be an amazing halfway house wine. And if you take those principles of kind of red meets white, you can actually find that orange wines are an amazing food wine. They're actually really good with foods that people are scared to pair wines with. Things like Korean kimchi with its bitterness is an amazing bitter comparison. The best food pairing, is I've ever had with an orange wine is chicken tikka masala, which was incredible. But also Thai foods, which can sometimes be quite tricky with an aromatic style of orange wine. You have to be a bit experimental, but wow, 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 it's so delicious. I think the biggest challenge though is going to be the people that you drink them with. Younger generations and wine enthusiasts tend to embrace them. They're a bit different, but they're also generally good food wines, and so you can have them in lots of different occasions. More traditionalists are going to say things to you like, oh, I don't like it, it looks like cider or tastes like cider. And in which case, why not try them with something like a Radicon or Pheasant's Tears, which are the original high quality orange wines. And they're great for people who maybe don't try as quirky a subset of wines and need a more gentle introduction. They're clean as a whistle, they're really easy drinking. And also, dare I say it, if you get an orange wine that's less cloudy, it can sometimes be easier to swing people who might not normally have had that style. But overall, I certainly think orange wines are an absolute must-know for anyone who's into their new and upcoming wines. You see them everywhere in urban wine bars. You often will now find an orange section on the wine list, so don't shy away from them. Just try and understand them a bit better. So what are my 5 top tips when it comes to orange wine? Number 1 is that orange wines are actually really important in the natural wine movement, but they are not exclusively natural. The two things aren't synonymous. Yes, a lot of orange wines are natural, but you don't have to be natural to be an orange wine. Number 2, don't assume that the colour is going to be a great indication of the flavour or the bitterness, etc. Some people try and do that with rosés. I wouldn't do it with rosés, and I wouldn't do it with orange wine. Colour can be a really hard thing to make you guess what your wine's going to taste like. So just taste it instead. 3, sometimes orange wines get a bit of a rep for being oxidised, or because they kind of have a quality that might dull other flavours. But the good ones definitely prove that wrong. And I would say just buy good orange wine and say to the naysayers, these are not oxidised, they are not dull, but they are definitely more complex than some other white wines. Number 4, I touched on this earlier, but lots of orange wines are then bottled unfiltered, so they're going to be cloudy. Of course, if you weren't expecting it to be cloudy, or it shouldn't be, that's different, but don't be alarmed when there is a little haze to your orange wine. Mine's actually quite clear today, but there can be a haze that almost makes them opaque. If you were expecting it, or if that's the style of wine, great. But of course, if you're not expecting it, yeah, of course you should say something. And 5. There is a bit of a fine line between a lightly macerated white wine and an orange wine, and it can be a bit tricky as to how you would describe it. But for example, if you're having a Pinot Gris from Alsace and it has an ever so slight pink hue to it, I would not say that this is a vin blanc de macération, not a macerated white wine. It's just that naturally Pinot Gris has a grey-pink skin, and chances are it has picked up a little bit of that colour during the winemaking, but it's not been left for days like a wine like this may have been. So yes, there might be a little hint of a hue, but if you're talking stylistically, to call a wine that's lightly hued from somewhere like an Alsace Pinot Gris would be incorrect to term it an orange wine. So there sums my exploration into orange wine. I'm really excited to try this. This is a new wine to me, but it's absolutely smelling delicious, and I can't wait to pair it with my chicken tikka this evening. Cheers.